How you doing? Martin Lopez here with VA Mortgage Bootcamp, ISA Residential Lending, and Martin Lopez Home Loans. And today I was on a call with a really good friend of mine, Ann Amaral. She is an amazing real estate agent with a realtor, actually, with Berkshire Hathaway. And we were talking about non-owner investment properties, buying and selling investment properties, especially during COVID with all the the concerns about renters and evictions and all those other things. So what I did is I had a different show planned for today, but I think this topic is so important because Anna's not the first person to ask me about it, but I wanted to bring her on, Ann Amaral from Berkshire Hathaway and Athalia, an attorney at law. And let's talk a little bit about, buying and selling during these crazy times, specifically investment property. Ann, Athalia, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Hi, Martin.
Awesome. Hi. So, Athalia, how about if we have you introduce yourself first and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of jump into the topic.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Athalia Magana. I'm an attorney at Hoffman & Ford, Attorneys at Law. We're located here in San Diego, California, near downtown. Most of my practice is real estate, anything from commercial to residential to transactional, litigation, anything that touches and concerns property. That's my area of expertise.
That's terrific. Ann, how about you? Tell us a little bit about you, please.
Hi, I'm a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. I've been practicing real estate for, longer than I want to admit, over 20 years. And just trying to stay current on how best to serve my clients. So this is a really timely topic. Thank you for having me.
You got it. So, Ann, you had a question, and I wanted to get Athalia on to talk about that. Do you want to go ahead and ask that question, and then we'll have Athalia respond to it?
Sure. I have a couple of clients right now that are looking to sell their properties that are tenant occupied. So I think the biggest, my understanding, Athalia, is that tenant evictions, there's a moratorium until January 30th, but we're expecting maybe some kind of an extension of that. What are your thoughts?
Yes, so we technically there are tenant protections that are in effect until January 31st of 2021. So starting February 1st, it might look a little bit different. I have been hearing the same rumors as you've mentioned that there may be an extension. I'm not sure. I believe a week and a half ago, there was a state of the court address with the San Diego Superior Court, and the judge did not want to make a comment on whether the protections are going to be extended. So that makes me believe that they might. I'm not sure. But the protections only pretty much exist for tenants that cannot pay rent for COVID-related financial distress. So anything other than that, there are some limitations, but it gives the landlord or whoever the owner is a little bit more wiggle room if they want to, or if there's some other reason why they want to occupy the property.
And I hear those evictions are taking longer. Can you give me an estimate on a timeline for those evictions that are happening?
Yes, I actually had what I thought was going to be a trial yesterday. But instead of it being a trial, it just ended up being more of a trial call where you come together and the judge gives you a laydown of what's going to happen. What's going to happen is all the trials are going to be transferred into a particular department. And then from there, they're going to spread them out into different judges' departments. So I am looking at, instead of a trial being held yesterday, I'm looking at something a little bit in early to mid-February.
So from start to finish, what will that timeline look like? How long will it take to get to the end in a decision?
So the cases that I'm handling now that are on that trial schedule, I would probably say that they were filed, probably in late September, early October is that time frame, and they're being handled now. But that's also because the court does not even entertain any sort of eviction or unlawful detainer action prior to October 5th. So now that we're in the stage where you can actually file and the court's a little bit more prepared to separate the types of cases, if a case were to be filed, a matter of some sort of eviction were to be filed today, I'm not really sure what that timeline would look like. I think it will be a little more streamlined, but I still think we're looking at something in March or April.
Okay, so
Wow.
a couple of months, maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. Okay, that's awesome.
What else? Actually, I have a couple questions
What?
for you, actually.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
What kind of proof does a tenant have to provide to show COVID hardship?
So the court is, let me first just start out by saying that California is extremely tenant friendly, which I think we all know, extremely tenant friendly. So the burden of proof for a tenant to show they have some sort of financial distress is extremely low. For, an average Joe, all you really have to do is sign a declaration saying, I've been financially affected by COVID, whether that's I lost my job or I have less hours or I have to care for a family member. It can, for any other reason, the statute verbally says, or any other reason. So you can really make COVID financial distress anything. Now, the caveat is if the property owner, if your landlord knows that you're what's called a high income earner, and I think it's like earns over $100,000 for single, or I think it's like 150 for a couple or a family, then you have to show physical, documents of I got laid off, or my boss gave me less hours, or I'm sick, my wife's sick, whatever that reason is. Most landlords don't really know what their tenants are making, so I haven't encountered an issue with that yet. But yes, it is not very difficult to claim a financial distress.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's pretty amazing. I'm just blown away by that.
Yeah.
So what do you think the impact, or how have you seen the impact during this is for Anne, for investors like looking to sell their properties? Are they having a tough time like selling their properties because a potential buyer doesn't know if they're going to have rental income?
Well, it certainly limits your pool of buyers. One of my questions, sorry to answer a question with a question, but I think it depends on financing too. One of the other questions that I had is there owner-occupied financing for a property that is on the market that maybe a first-time buyer, maybe not even a first-time home buyer would want to buy? Can they get owner-occupied financing with a tenant in place that we don't know when they're going to be able to remove the tenant? Because I think that's really going to affect it.
So buying a house that's currently rented, and then they don't know if they're going to gain occupancy because of a situation like that?
They don't know when.
Yeah. I would say right off the top, and I'd have to ask an underwriter, but I'd say right off the top, I don't think that you can get financing that way because, part of the financing, if you're owner occupying, you have to be in that property within 60 days. And if you don't know if you can get rid of a tenant, then you can't promise that you're going to occupy that property.
So
it creates a hardship all the way around, a financial hardship too.
Yes, right there that says trying to sell a tenant-occupied property right now really limits your pool of investors because you're probably asking. So a case study that I have right now is a listing coming up. At the price that she purchased the property several years ago, the current rent is probably penciling out. But at current market rates, it's not going to pencil out. And on top of that, you've got some somewhat non-performing tenants. So they've been a couple $100 short every month. So you're asking even an investor to take on sort of a somewhat non-performing asset. That's really going to, I think, hit the seller in their pocketbook.
Yeah.
I agree. And it was even an issue before COVID where if it's tenant occupied, I've always, the cases come across my desk and it's you got to find a solution. Either the seller tries to get a tenant out or the buyer does. And then the seller and the tenant have got this kind of, battle going on, the new buyer wants to occupy their home. And now you've got this big issue. And it, like you said, Anne, now it's even inflated, because there's the bigger issue of financing or when they're going to get a tenant out. It's just, you can really see those smaller issues really start to grow a little more during this time period.
How did you resolve it before COVID? How were you guys resolving it with through the courts before that?
So initially, what we try to do is it's a little bit better to do it on the seller side than it is on the buyer side, because a lot of buyers just don't want to handle that, trying to get a tenant out, or they don't want to run that risk.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
oftentimes we've done it more of a, seller, gives them a little bit of money, or they negotiate with the tenant, or the tenant, voluntarily leaves. We always have to find some sort of negotiation between all the parties, and it doesn't happen very often, but that's the best way of handling it, is just keeping it, out of the court. Buyer doesn't really want to deal with it. We got to handle this before.
We call it in our business, we call that cash for keys kind of thing. And
Yes.
I guess that you guys are doing the same thing.
And
right?
I'm hearing stories of landlords offering $10,000, $15,000 to tenants, and they're saying no because they don't know where to go. The rental inventory is very low right now. So that's the other problem that we're finding. Even if you try to help facilitate it, it's very hard to find kind of a replacement property for that tenant.
And I'm a renter, and I've been trying to move for the last 4 months, and I can't even find a place.
I know.
Imagine how tenants feel when to find something at their budget as well has been really difficult.
And I worry about, as a real estate agent, I worry about my liability if I try to help facilitate. So in this instance where we've got a non-performing tenant, by me stepping in and trying to help facilitate it, I feel like I have some disclosure responsibilities to the new landlord, because you're kind of pushing them a non-performing tenant. I wonder if we're going to see more cases that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps. It definitely is a disclosure issue. I mean, and we do a lot of our bread and butter is seller non-disclosure, and it happens all the time, especially when there's tenants. And, disclose everything is what we tell sellers. Just put it on the paper, because you never know.
The truth.
Yeah, there's no reason not to. No reason.
Especially right now when there's so few properties, people are willing to take and be able to say, okay, I don't like that, but I'll take that. And I've seen that happen so many times where that's really not the way I want the house to be, but I can't find anything else. I'll go ahead and buy that.
Yeah. And Martine, we've seen that in the REO world, where, especially towards the end of that last downturn, the banks were taking big files with multiple properties in them and just selling them with tenants in place and shifting that responsibility to the next owner. I just think, the other discussion, kind of shifting gears here, that I'm hearing out there is owners are talking about, should I take a hit on my property and sell it, kind of in this compromised position now, or should I wait and see if the market rides down and then maybe have to take that hit on top of a market that's already ridden down? So I think we're seeing a big shift in people who own a lot of multiple properties are starting to look at, should I take 75 cents on the dollar now, or risk kind of like a stop market on it, like you sell short on a stock. Kind of looking at this in this light right now.
Right. I agree. And I've encountered kind of the same questions, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years, and it could be worse off. Don't know.
Well, it's kind of like the wild, wild west out there right now. I mean, in so many different ways, because interest rates are so low. So the inventory, home prices are going up. There's the whole thing happening with COVID. There's everything that's going on with, with tenants and rent and just all that. And the way that we have to underwrite files now, if you're self-employed, the world has changed dramatically, and it'd be nice to get it back to some degree of maybe, I don't know, what would you say? Like to know that things are going to be the same, or something with certainty, if we will. But maybe that's not our future. Certainty might not in the real estate business be our future. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out. Do you have any other questions, Ann, before we go?
No, I think thank you, Athalia, for answering all of my questions at the moment. I really appreciate that.
No problem.
It'll definitely give me some tools to help my sellers.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Athalia, thanks for
Lauren.
Absolutely. How about really quick, tell people how to get a hold of you if they have any questions or concerns, any need for a real estate attorney?
Yeah, of course. You can, if you can remember how to spell my name, you can Google my name, and my state bar information will come up. If not, Hoffman and Ford is a little easier to remember. HoffmanandFord.com. You can find my contact on the list of attorneys or any attorney at my firm. Thank you so much for having me, Marin and Ann. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely. And reach out to me if you need to get hold of Athalia. I know how to get a hold of her. Ann, tell us a little bit about you. And
okay, well, you can reach out to me. I have a website, it's sdhomeowner.com, as in San Diego homeowner.com.
Nice.
You can email me at ann@sdhomeowner.com, or just reach out to my website, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about any of these issues.
That's awesome. Do you ever get people from South Dakota trying to reach out to you?
I do. I mean, right now, I think there's more of an exodus to Texas and Arizona and states like that.
We got to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we still have a very brisk real estate market, so there's always people coming in.
Yeah, somebody told me that they're expecting 16 to 20% appreciation this year.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? That's nuts.
Yeah.
Wow.
On top of what we've already seen, so that's good news.
Hold on if you're a homeowner.
Yeah.
Get in the market if you're a home buyer. Thanks, guys. Thank you very, very much for showing up, girls. And we'll definitely got to have you on again. Appreciate all your support and everything you do.
Thank you for having us, Martine.